Welcome back to the channel. All right, it's time to do the top 10 science champions in MCoC. We're going to go to the quick explanation on how this is all formatted to make sure you completely understand it. We're then going to look at a lot of the Illuminati's own personal and their recommended rank ups, their rankings, and kind of my analysis on some things to point out. And then we will get directly to my recommended rank ups, and then of course my personal as well. Let's get to it. All right, as we look at the Illuminatis, you're going to really see the difference based on how they're playing the game, right? And the way that influences their rank ups and what they're recommending. For MCG, you're going to have to go to his channel, phenomenal channel. You should be subscribed anyways to see his own personal rankings, right? I know he's going to be doing the videos. The link will be in the description. And for the recommended, you can see this really playing out. B enjoys content and enjoys Alliance War. He still has the 2.5 in fun, but I think he's really putting a lot of that in because he enjoys those modes. Battlegrounds is not nearly as big of an influence. And I think that's part of why there's as many 6-star lock champions up there. You can also see like Spider-Man 2099, not high on my list. And then also when we do our aggregate general tier list every single month, Spider-Man has been falling down. But some of your Alliance War players, some of your people who are really emphasizing content, still see the value of Spider-Man 2099. I'm excited to see if we see Spider-Man 2099 on any of the other Illuminati science lists. Moving on to Campo's tier list, again, personal, you're going to have to go and check the video. I've already seen it. It's fantastic. Not a surprise coming from Campo there. Again, the emphasis is different here. Alliance War is not on there. Campo is a former tier 1 officer, top 10 masters planner as well too. And then curiously focused on PvE, content and chill alliance. You can see content has a high score. Fun has a high score. Not surprising to see 6 stars still well up there because of those really tough PvE modes where the 6 stars are struggling a bit more against your 7-star rank, things like that, not coming into play nearly as much. And then you can see Void and Quicksilver also up there as well. This makes a lot of sense coming from Campo. Like I said, his video is awesome. Make sure you check that out. Moving on to Egatron, the thing that really stands out a lot to me or for me is the presence of the leader. Now, I know some of you have commented like on the general tier list, how is the leader rated so highly when he's getting a buff? And this is kind of how, right? And I want to be abundantly clear. I'm not blaming Egatron. I am actually crediting Egatron. And you're going to see the leader on some of the other ones, or if they haven't already shown up, I think they may have been on B's, is the leader is very good for some of the war content. Remember how he's handling power gain and healing as well. And so I think the buff is probably just going to make him significantly more accessible and easier to use in other content or in like Battlegrounds competitive content. I'm very excited to see what we end up finding out about the leader. And then Count Nefaria, very, very high up. Someone who enjoys war. Highest BG's finish is Mysterium. You can see a planner in Alliance War. Tier 1, Masters. Really makes sense to see Nefaria so high up in a PvP-focused rankings. Moving on to MCoC Encyclopedia, another channel new to the Illuminati and has really done a tremendous job of growing the subscriber base with highly educational videos on completing act content, champion reviews. I love Encyclopedia's channel. Make sure you also check that out. Now, he's told me he's not sure he's going to be doing his own separate video, so I haven't covered up personal. You can see the high emphasis on content. I happen to know he's a fantastic war player there. You can see kind of in the credentials too. And the interesting thing that stood out for me was he was on Nefaria early, really helped me when I went back to dive down into Nefaria some more. And then also, again, you can see the 6 stars. It's something you're not going to see that much on mine and on some of these like higher tier PvP because the 6 stars are struggling a bit more to punch up to the 7-star rank 3s. But in a lot of your content, they're still great. And then one thing I want to point out, when Encyclopedia got his graphic in, thank you for doing it so early. Red Hulk, we did not know would be available as a 7-star in that Titan. So I think now if Encyclopedia had a chance to go ahead and revisit, or maybe if we can convince him to redo his video in January, his tier list in January, you might see Red Hulk move up a bit. I think it's going to be a lot of your war players and maybe in some content too, because Red Hulk does have value. Being a 7-star with that staff focus whole thing going to help him out tremendously. Moving on to Jaeger, does not have a very active channel, so I feel comfortable showing his personal score. He's currently in love with the leader, right? You look at his credentials there, and I think that explains a lot. Going to be incessant about Shothra. I love Shothra as well. Currently, he's very much focused in on the leader. Leader's been getting him a lot of like flat out kills in Battlegrounds, trying to make a little bit of sense of that. And you can see how highly he has him rated. If this is kind of your idea, you can see the emphasis is on fun here. And then Jaeger does a great job as a perfect example of a player who is not spending massive amounts of money and doing exceptionally well in Battlegrounds because he really learns to use the champions well. He's the first one that really tipped us off how great Luke Cage is. He gets them, he enjoys them, he ranks them, and then he really dives into the kit and finds all the versatile things that they can do. A phenomenal example of how if you rank the champions that you enjoy, you're going to play them so well and you will play them better than if you had ranked a champion higher up on my tier list or really anyone's tier list that you don't enjoy and don't know how to use them well. You can always, always, always know that Jaeger is going to be following that whole rank up you enjoy, and then you're going to find tremendous uses for them. Now on to Maya. Maya's channel is not terribly active. I'm always trying to convince her to get it active again. She's a phenomenal, phenomenal player there. You can see the credentials. The emphasis on BG's fun and Alliance War really balanced out. Maya is also a perfect example, and always has been since I've known her, of ranking up a unique champion or a so-called, we often use the term underrated. You can see this playing out here perfectly on the left side. You got Sandman and Morbius up there, and the fact of the matter is, she's pulling off phenomenal results for them. I really love Morbius too, as you know, and we'll see here in a minute. But that's just kind of, again, the emphasis on this. You are consistently seeing Titania, Photon, Silk, but then as you start to move your way down, it starts to change based on the person's priorities and what they enjoy. And then last but not least, are the participating Illuminati for science. We've got William. You can see William is an absolutely outrageously skilled player. Often finishing very high in Battlegrounds, and if he spent more time on that, he would finish even higher, but he's incredibly dedicated to his studies. Also, tremendous results in Alliance War as well. The credentials are outrageous for William here. Now, if you look at this one, it's interesting to me to see as many 6 stars as I do. I would have thought with the Battlegrounds and the Alliance War focus would not be as many of them. But when you look at them, you see it's those really like, once you see me, hear me debate, are they OP? Or are they broken? And I think they're flirting, and they're ones we're not going to see for quite a while. As 7 stars, I hope we see Red Guardian soon. He's one I think have the highest likelihood of, but a lot of players have figured out a way of playing Red Guardian. I don't particularly enjoy it because I think it's a bit risky, but when you're playing that high of Battlegrounds, I think it's worth the risk. Is you just hold the block, you wait for the defender to heavy into your block, you will stun them, and then you'll get your shield back as you get to your SB2. So you're seeing an incredibly high score here for a 6-star lock champion there in Red Guardian. And then, of course, Scorpion with the shifting damage debuffs and then immunities. You can see why a really high tier war player would like that, the flexibility that's going to add and allow for while you're planning out a map and going attacking it in tier 1 Alliance War. All right, let's go ahead and get to my rankings. All right, it's time for my recommended science champions, right? 1 through 10. We'll go over honorable mention 2. And remember, my priorities, we'll show them at the end when we go over my personal kind of standouts or what's different than what I recommend. My priorities are 4 for Battlegrounds and 4 for fun. 1, that's what I enjoy. And 2, I have never once found myself when it comes time to quest or even war in tier 3, tier 4 with 4 VGs thinking, man, if only I had that champion ranked up. Battlegrounds and fun has more than seen me through. I've always got someone available who can handle the challenge that's presented. So in the honorable mentions, we'll start off with Morbius. You've heard me talk about Morbius already in this video. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's fantastic. You saw the video I put out. We're going to talk about him a little bit more later. I'll save that. And then Spot. I love Spot, right? I just do. And I think if science hadn't had the explosion in power level that it's had over the last year and a half, 2 years, Spot would definitely be on this list. In Battlegrounds, he can be a little tricky to play, right? Or you take a lot of blocked hits with the 7-star stat focus. That has been helped out tremendously. It's just the science class is outrageous. Spot can do massive, massive damage if you get that SIG going. And then the other one I just really want to call out, because I actually think he's back on the rise, is Overseer, especially in Battlegrounds and definitely fun. He's always been insanely fun. And I want to point this out right here. It is his first bullet point. Yeah, it's SIG 200. All those green numbers go up. I'm not saying that's not helpful, but it's the single one here. where it's, and the overseer gains 1 gamma power whenever he's immune to anything. Well, look at these immunities. This is a lot, and these are the fights we are often really wanting to bring him in. He has tremendous versatility. Like I said, I was using him for boss killing in 4 Loki, which is when I first really dove into him. And also, when it comes to Battlegrounds, I theorized this a while ago. I think Man-Thing is making a dent. He's a champion that you want to either, you're going to have to ban, or you want to plan for. This is one of the best options. You just all the various things being immune to that charges him up. He goes in there, he beats the heck out of it. And then remember, early in Battlegrounds, he was one of the better dual threats in the game. He's got the whole auto block mechanic too, and a big health pool. Look at that right there at rank 2. I will be looking to take mine to rank 3 relatively soon. And like I said, I think he might be back ascending. He's incredibly well made. It's not surprising when champions like that start to ascend as the game goes on. All right, let's go ahead and get to number 10. This is going to be my only 6-star actually in the whole science thing. I know that's probably pretty surprising. This has been a theme for me this month. Doing the top 10s really helps kind of solidify a lot of thoughts when we start to really stress test this. Again, Battlegrounds. Remember, my highest finish ever is in Celestial. I think it's Celestial 6, and I'm constantly in Mysterium somewhere in there. You're fighting a lot of 7-star rank 3s. Nowadays, decks are just full of 7-star rank 3s in those levels. With the challenger rating, all those things, punching up is getting harder and harder. Now, if you're looking to rank up some champions and your priorities are also Battlegrounds and fun, I would highly take a look at this guy. I think there's some bang for your buck here with your 6-star resources. You would like the SIG to be higher, but again, 6-star 6 stones are relatively common nowadays. He's immune to buffs, right? So that's tremendous value there. And then also it's this last part. He's got the refreshable slow. There it is. On the heavy attacks, you can refresh your slow, your fragility, and your trauma. And then if you really want to get tricky with him, a lot of your high tier players, as you saw earlier, are utilizing him. You hold on to your block. You let the champion, the defender, come in, try to break your block. You're going to stun them, and then you work your way back to your special 2. By the time you get there, or soon thereafter, your shield has come back, and you've kept your debuffs up with your heavy, and you just absolutely obliterate him. It's really beautiful, a lot of fun. I hope he comes as a 7-star soon, although I'm not so sure he will. All right, now let's go ahead and move on to number 9. And this one, again, all going to fit my priorities in game. Now, I'm not telling you to awaken your thing and dump your 6 stones into him. I think there's other champions, and we'll get to them, where you're going to want that even more. But if you've pulled him, you've awakened him, the 6's starting to get going, right? The protections are going to start kicking in. He's back. These classic defenders are very much back, by and large. I'm sure there's some that aren't completely. Yeah, there's Falcon. Yes, there's Crossbones. Yes, there is Black Cat in a lot of decks. But almost every defender has some sort of counters. And it's about how you strategize, how you build your deck, how you do your bans. He's great. I sometimes just get stuck against someone's got a massive thing and they place them, and there's literally nothing I can do because I didn't have one of my champions that counters them well come up. It's either a strategic loss for me or just a loss that did not feel strategic at all on my side. And then you can use him offensively, not in Battlegrounds, but he's definitely fun to do. Remember, there used to be the Thing team. Look at all these immunities. It wasn't that long ago. He was being used in Tier 1 War. I remember at 4 Loki, it was happening all the time, and I think SSX as well. All right, let's go ahead and move on to number 8. We've got a champion that is high on the fun, high on the damage, one of the true best control champions in the game. Allison Edits and I did a lot of talking about that. She really pointed out he just controls fights. Now, there was a time before his buff where it felt like you needed to get to SIG 200. You're at SIG 200 or nothing. Well, after the buff, I'm more than content with him at SIG 80. That feels like a lot, because if you look at it, it's this last bullet point of the SIG. Inflicting an Encore passive while an Encore is already active, you're going to get 73%. That's basically 3/4 of the time, right? I'd love it if it was a little over 3/4, and I'm not upset if I pull him more. But that's placing that additional rupture. So while you're getting the Encore passives up, and they are controlling the fight for you, you're also increasing your damage, and then you get to your special 2. The damage is fantastic. And then as far as Battlegrounds is concerned, he's not a terrible defender, right? With that whole evade mechanic and things like that. It's great for controlling the fight. It's great for getting intercepts when you're using him. But when I've had to place him on defense, he's actually not been bad. And in certain metas, he's been phenomenal. I think it was the Crit Me meta, but he's not bad on defense as well. He's a fantastic champion. It's just this field in science is absolutely stacked. Now we're going to get on to Count Nefaria. And some of you are going to be like, this low again. And trust me, I just put out the video. I hope you've seen it. I'm calling him like the most controversial champ. And I really went through and I'm teaching you how to play Nefari. I went and tested him for 2 days. And I learned a lot about him, right? Stuff that like you have to kind of piece it together and you have to do PvP and all that. And I'm not going to retalk the whole video. It's honestly, I think it's excellent. I think it's one of the better videos I've ever done as far as like really explaining what's going on and putting together a kit. After all of that, I really love this champion. I'm going to start putting sig stones into him. And in fact, let's do that right now so I don't forget. And so you can see what I mean. We're going to use every single one of these. I know that I could use this on other champions that you know I enjoy. But getting that guy's sig up for PvP modes, I mean, it's going to be helpful in PvE too. But it's the sig is going to be helpful. It's going to help you like kind of like, it's not cheese because I think the designer did this very intentionally with Mystic Dispersion 5 of 5. If you're playing high tier Battlegrounds, it's always going to be there. If you're playing high tier War, it's always going to be there. He's got all those resistances, damage for days, handling healing, handling power gain too. You got to set him up in certain fights. Again, I show that. I think this is going to be one of the champions that ages exceptionally well over a course of 2025. Will not be surprised at all if in June, when we do the update, he's higher than this. And I think if I had had a little bit more time and been able to use him in some Battlegrounds matchups or seasons, or if I had him at SIG 200, he'd be higher up. So I want to be abundantly clear. I think he's awesome. And I actually do see a bit of a tier break here between him and Spider-Punk. Even though I like Spider-Punk as much as I do, Nefaria is bonkers. He's a baller. I love him. I'm going to get that SIG 200 and I'm going to take him to rank 3. So, okay, you know I love him. Let's move on. Going to be great in PvE too. So you're like, I don't like War or I don't like Battlegrounds. Trust me, he's going to be fine. And I show it in there too. If you can't well-time block the thing, you're fine. Unfazed sucks, don't get me wrong. But there's a lot in there. Go see that video. Go see it. All right. Now let's go ahead and move on. This is one of those ones where you're like, how is he not number one? If you've played him, if you've really gotten good with him, you're like, how is he not number one? And it's just, again, this class is bonkers. It's what do you need? What do you want? He doesn't have the defensive prowess that he once did. We used to even list him in the Battlegrounds tier list as a dual threat. People have gotten used to it. People have learned to use their striker when he's going to go unstoppable and all those things. I'm currently working on, it's kind of called like the SB1 strategy, but essentially what I'm doing is I'm throwing my SB1 before I even get to the SB2, using that stun. And then if I don't go into my Gamma Rage naturally in that first stun, I'll use my heavy to go into it. You get the stun up and then the defender's just stun locked. It's not as fast as going to the SB2 and if like the SB2 crits or like going to the SB3 and getting all the debuffs from that as well. But in certain fights, like I've used it against Enchantress, I don't want to deal with that lady. I don't want to deal with her. She's mean. I've used Hulk, and he's been absolutely phenomenal. Shout out to Adam of the Spreadsheet Wizards pointing out how powerful the synergy. Let's hope it's here. Let's hope it's here. Actually, it's not going to be here, but it's with Silver Surfer that actually makes Hulk, I believe it is buff immune. Showed me that. That's pretty insane. Really insane utility. If only Silver Surfer was good. I know some of you just cried. I'm sorry about that. He's just not that great. But still, as far as a travel partner is concerned, to be able to make a Hulk have that sort of utility is fantastic, phenomenal. And in Battlegrounds, he's just an absolute stud. I use him like not every day because a lot of my alliance mates beat me to it, but almost every day to take out one of the two Danny Moonstar bosses in AQ, and he just obliterates them. It's fun. It's actually a good time. All right, now moving on. Again, remember, Battlegrounds and fun focus. I have recently ranked up my Silk. I've always kind of seen it, but man, having her at rank 3, I think like an appropriate rank, she's just obliterating things. She truly is. And, you know, I got the advice from Old Man Easy, a lot of you, Campo, was like, look, don't try to force the intercepts and all that stuff. She's just kind of bonkers and the good things will happen. It's absolutely played out. Like, yeah, if I can pull off the really cool high skill stuff, AI manipulations, I can just get them down, you know, with an intercept and the SB2, the stun into the striker and things just die. But if not, I just go to the SB3, the elongated stun, and then I go into the SB1, most things die. So even if you don't get all the way up to your SB2 because you're unfamiliar with that combo and things like that, you just kill stuff. You just kill stuff. And I think with Rintra coming back, gonna be in Battlegrounds decks, gonna be in War and all those things, having a Silk is going to be incredibly helpful, especially if you got her awakened, right? Get that slow going and things like that. So she's fantastic. She's phenomenal. Another champion that like If you told me you thought she was number 1, I'd be like, I disagree, but yeah, dude, you ain't wrong. Here's the one that I know a lot of you view, meaning you probably view my channel pretty regularly. So you might not disagree. This dude's awesome, man. He's just a brawler. The designer DLL did a fantastic job of being like, here's a brawler that's handling problems, right? Like if his exhaustions did not handle ability combat or ability power rate, this would be a totally different champion, right? But they do, because he's a science champion, and that's what the science champion is. One of the like main things a science champion can do. He does it phenomenally. I've shown you against like serpents. I've shown you against so many mystic champions. We have the Book of Luke. Shout out to Jaeger, right? Like this is a great champion. He goes bleed immune, and then the indestructible allows you to play so much more aggressively, not only with intercepts, but also if the power gain is just that outrageous, you can tank a special 3. I've shown this to you on my channel so many times. He doesn't. He does not have the eye-popping nature of Silk, Hulk, or Nefaria. So I definitely see why a lot of people are like, I want that more nukey thing. And I totally get it. I respect it. I think this is a matter of like, what do you enjoy? What do you like? For me, currently, the problems I face, he is one of the most versatile champions in the game. All those immunities, like we just talked about, indestructible, which is a really, really big deal. Attack ratings for each unique debuff, attack rating for each non-unique debuff. This guy is stacking debuffs. And we have not even mentioned the concussion here, which is just absolutely bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. You get all those things together and you realize how high this concussion goes. And then against Mystic champions, you just shut them down with a single SB2. And I've shown you multiple fights where you can get 2 of your SB2s up and you just shut off the abilities of the defender. And remember, concussion is all ability accuracy, not just defensive. Luke is fantastic. He's phenomenal. I absolutely love him. Now, moving on to number 3, none other than Spider-Ham. This feels so good. This was a champion I covered very early on in my channel, and I was like, he's a stone cold killer. I tried talking my war planners there to let me use him in war, and they just kind of agreed he was a little too unsafe. Like, health pool is not large and all those things, and that's fine. I'm very okay with it. This is years ago, and I wasn't that great of a player at the time anyway. He's got a lot, though, that makes him tanky, right? The spider nonsense helps him out tremendously. He's got a little bit of extra physical resistance. You can see the way I have him stat focus, though, so I'm not going to try to make it sound like this guy's just a wall. But then he's also got multiple evades, multiple taunts. I think, it was Pablo, right? And I'm sorry if I discredited the wrong person. There's just a lot of really smart people on my Discord server talked about how getting the defender farther along in their power bar is incredibly helpful. So not just like more power, but getting them closer to the next power is great. I just recently had a fight against a enchantress that we just destroyed her, and I actually went to my special 2. So you're not always wanting to just use your SB1. You can see the special 2 placed 3 porker poppers on the opponent, each lasting 9 seconds. A lot of damage. It's a lot of damage. And then I of course took my relic, my Ant-Man relic up. So he's definitely the king of power stings, which is something that's asked for at times. He's not the greatest defender in the world. There's counters out there, but you can place him on defense. He causes problems. He's caused problems versus me and for me before. And then just one of those champions where you're like, wow, we can't gain power. That's cool. I'll just place my power stings. Oh, we can gain power. That's also fun. I'll still just place my power stings. Class disadvantage, no big deal. Oh, you're gaining power. How about some power stings so you take damage while you throw all the specials, and I'll taunt you to do it too. Use your heavy to keep your spider nonsense up. He's fantastic. I absolutely love him. Again, Battlegrounds and Fun Focus, there might not be anyone better than Spider-Ham, except these 2 champions. Number 2 is Photon. As far as dual threats are concerned, if you're looking for someone with defensive prowess and offensive, I would actually push her number 1. I love my dual threats, so that was a thought process for me. But number one's number 1. But that's not it. Let's focus on Photon. Things I want to just point out, sometimes things that go under the radar, right? She counters miss. Remember that, just out of the box, her mediums can't miss. So one of my favorite counters for an enchantress to kind of help you out, right? Because that's part of how that fight can go sideways. Then when she gets into her pure light form, none of the attacks can miss. Remember, she can go untouchable. She can also parry non-contact attacks, which is huge for like your Shuris or just prowlers, champions like this, right? And then last but not least, with Rintra coming back, remember, she goes immune to neutralize, and also off her heavy attack, she's got Asunder, reducing crit rating down, no, crit resistance. There it is. Words are hard. I've recorded a lot of videos today. All the way down to 0. He's a tanky boy. That bull's got a lot. There's a reason, not just the health pool, that he's so tough to bring down. She's fantastic. She's phenomenal. She's even good for Man-Thing. I've shown that before. Last but not least, the absolute queen of the science class. And listen, I get it. And if you want to say it's biased due to Battlegrounds, I'm okay with that. I'm telling you what my priorities are. I'm telling you what I would recommend for similar priorities. However, it's been a while since I've done Tier 1 War. But when I left Tier 1 War, I was using Titanium, just dominating the crap out of stuff. She's been dominant in Battlegrounds. You can even still take her. I do it. I show it to you all the time to take skill champions, Atuma, and things like that. She's just bonkers, guys. It's interesting for me to hear people say they don't enjoy her. She's immune to buffs. You can see the SIG is incredibly helpful. I'm not going to put 6 stones into her, but I'm happy for every single pull. And like, I don't think, unless you play her enough and I think really try to take advantage of the aggressive nature that this allows you to do, unblockable, unstoppable, and indestructible, that you can get the cooldown shorter on. Remember, you want to land your lights and all that stuff. You can use that. I showed all the time. You're tanking things. You're gliding through specials that are tough to block. You create openings. It helps her be more tanky. Like the health pool on her, look at this, a 94,000 rank 3. I sometimes place her on defense. Other people do too. And she does a decent job, right? Because you don't want to intercept her because she's going to do the haymaker. You land your lights. I've shown this as well too. You land your lights, you get the suppression debuff, which is reducing the combat power rate. The link won't work. That's fine. And so you land those enough, you can get to your special 3 before they even throw a special. You can do that. You have to play it a certain way, but it's possible on matchups. And then I want to really explain this to people because I see people saying that like her Intimidate doesn't work like it used to. And I actually used to think that too. And then I realized something. I got so comfortable with it. I wasn't doing the haymaker into the first hit of the heavy into the special 3. And as a result, I wasn't getting 2 Intimidates. Now, I'm not going to tell you 2 Intimidates makes it 100%. It doesn't. It's not supposed to. But my fortune, my good luck with it, whatever you want to call it, on the opponent not throwing specials is incredibly high, is incredibly successful. It takes a little bit longer to set it up sometimes, but when I get it done, it rarely fails me. I'm not going to tell you it'll never fail you, but I'm saying it rarely fails me. She's phenomenal. She's the absolute queen, and she's good in questing too. I'm not going to say she's great in long form. She's not. She's very good in questing. Use your SP1 into your SP2 rotations. You're going to find a lot of good things are happening there. And then also remember, she's even got the stagger off the heavy, helping you have some like buff control. This is a ridiculous champions. Her SP1 and her SP2 also do things. Keep that in mind. I love her. I don't see her falling off. I really don't. And it would be like if you just wanted the dual threat nature of Photon, I think, or the utility she brings. Maybe you love the power stings of Spider-Ham. You love the brute force nature of Hulk. Luke, I just don't think Luke would be number 1, to be just fully honest. Or I think it'd be Nefaria. If you just love like the eye-poppingness of Nefaria and all those immunities, I think Nefaria's got the kit and the power level to potentially be number 1 as far as this. Those are all champions I genuinely considered, but still landed on Titania as well. All right, let's go ahead and take a very quick look at the difference from my own personal tier list. Here's where my own like personal, just like pure bias. I'm throwing in a lot more of the fun. It's different than the recommended we just went over. If you're like, I want to see the recommended, you can follow me on Twitter, follow me on Blue Sky. I will eventually put those out or watch the video. This really awesome dude went ahead and made it. I like him a lot. Jokes, people, jokes. All right, on the personal, the one that really is just different, right? Just stands out differently from what I just recommended. If you have a similar play interest and motivation as me, it would be Morbius. I love playing Morbius. The fun factor him, you get up all those bleeds or the ruptures as I showed in the video, and you get to SPU and you just detonate things. And champions that are immune to bleed that like were supposed to cause some problems, they don't. Remember, he's even got like some control too. The guy does have utility. It's just often, not often, there are times where the power gain is just too much. Or if the defender goes passive, or if there's a node that's interrupting your flow, it starts to cause problems for him. So I just couldn't put him higher on the recommended. I just couldn't. I wanted to because he's so outrageously fun, but I did need to differentiate between like what I personally enjoy and things I'm willing to overlook when it comes to my rank ups and forcing someone into my Battlegrounds deck, and what I would actually recommend to another player who's trying to have the same priorities. That's it. I know these are a little bit longer, but I think it's important. We get a lot of information, and I hope you're enjoying the whole like seeing all the Illuminati. One, so that way when the tier lists come out and you really like a champion, you're like, yeah, it's because of them. They're the smart ones in the Illuminati. I'm glad they're there so those other morons don't ruin it. And then also, so you can see, these are all insanely smart players playing the game different ways. Not everyone's a high tier war player. Most people aren't actually high tier Battlegrounds players. They just don't have the time. But they're all insanely smart players, and they're utilizing their rosters and their investments in the game to the best of their capability and doing a phenomenal job. As usual, let me know what we think we got right. Let me know what we think we got wrong. Thank you so much for watching. Keep an eye out for the rest of the top 10s. The top 30 in game will come out afterwards, and then we'll finish this all off with the December full Illuminati tier list with some massive updates as we've stress tested all of our thoughts on these champions. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.